Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nest in 2025. I'm Aniket Chaturbuj, leading business development in the EMEA region for Flightways, and I'm thrilled to have you all here for this exciting session. Before we begin, let's get some energy in the room. Where are you joining us from today? Drop your location in the chat. We'd love to see how global our audience is. We are now diving into a critical topic: scaling operations with Nokia's 5G enabled drone in a box systems. One of the biggest challenges enterprises face when adopting drone in a box technology is scalability. How do we move from a single documentation to a fully integrated network of autonomous drones operating across large industrial sites, smart cities, and critical infrastructure? Stay tuned to get the answers to these questions as we unfold this session. And now I'm honored to welcome Thomas. He's a distinguished leader in the wireless telecommunications industry with over 15 years of experience in research, development, and business leadership. As the head of embedded wireless solutions at Nokia, Thomas is at the forefront of innovation, driving the introduction of industrial and mission critical private wireless 5G networks, and leading the development of the groundbreaking Nokia drone tech networks. Also, a huge thank you to our NestGen 2025 sponsors, the ones who are leading the way and the industry forward. Before we jump into the discussion, a few quick housekeeping items. Please drop any questions you have into the Q&A or chat box. We'll address them during our interactive Q&A session at the end of this. The session is being recorded and will be available after the event. Be sure to check out the booth area to learn more about our partners and their cutting edge technologies. And of course, share your insights, key takeaways, and favorite moments using hashtag Nestor. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Thomas Eder to the stage. Thomas, over to you.
Thank you very much, Aniket. And as soon as I have a chance, I will obviously also share my screen. Just a moment. Now you should be able to see the presentation. Yes, good. Hey, all together, I think we got 15, maybe 20 minutes to talk a little bit about Nokia Drone Networks and to talk a little bit about how to scale drone in a box operations, basically with 5G and with modern telecommunications technology. Before I dig deeper into how we see the 5G ecosystem and how we see 4G, 5G becoming more and more an enabler for scaling drone operations, I wanted to touch briefly base on our drone in a box solution. You might have heard about Nokia Drone Networks, which is a turnkey drone in a box solution for your drones as a service operations. It's one more product on the drones in a box market, which is obviously a very, very growing market. But I think as one of the unique selling propositions that Nokia has for this market is it's really the 4G and 5G connectivity, and it is from a technology standpoint, knowing very well that regulatory frameworks in different regions of the world are different. But the key is from a technology standpoint, that system has been designed from the day one for BVLOS operations at scale. And I will also show you in a couple of slides a bit more about what BVLOS operations at scale means for us. Apart from that, this year's NestGen is all in the context of how can the drone industry, but particularly the drone in a box section of the drone industry, leverage the benefits of AI, the benefits of modern software technologies. And I think one of the key items is that we talk about solutions on the market which are supported by either edge cloud technologies or data center technologies that allow a very dynamic reallocation of computation and a dynamic allocation of where do I actually want to process the data that the drone collects. And I'll show you more about it in a moment, how we as Nokia see the situation in the market. But overall, if you're eager to learn more about Nokia Drone Networks, the drone in a box solution you see here on the screen, and the possibility for software integrations with other solutions such as Flightbase and different different IT environments, feel free to always reach out. I think it is also important to say as Nokia that we are extremely happy to present here today at NestGen and to be together with Flightbase and the great team into an amazing collaboration. Let's look at for a moment at how we see today the ecosystem and why it is so important to consider telecommunications skill or telecommunications technologies for successful drone-in-a-box operations at scale. The way we see the ecosystem today is that there are basically the telecom vendors, and the telecom vendors are the Nokias and alikes. That can be also Nokia partners, which are the deploying network technology. But that can also be simply IT companies, which know very, very well how to deal with 4G or 5G networks, no matter if it's private wireless or public wireless networks. And then on top of that, we see the UAV manufacturers in that ecosystem. And the UAV manufacturers, I mean, the market is growing. There are more and more airframes coming. There are more and more drone-in-a-box solutions coming to the market, which is, from my perspective, a really, really good indication for the market. For all of those which are working in the drone industry, I want to say, being since more than 15 years now in high technology development projects, it can never go fast enough. The drone industry is not growing fast enough. The private 5G industry is not fast enough, growing not fast enough. Like it's never, market growth can never be fast enough. But what is for me very, very motivating and very good to see is that the amount of solutions is getting more, and the technology, the pace at which the technology develops in the drone industry is still very, very fast, which is a great sign that innovation is still at the forefront of this industry. And yeah, that's motivating, and that keeps all of us at Nokia, but I trust also all our friends in the drone industry working tirelessly and into the right direction. And the right direction is obviously, drone-in-a-box operations at scale. So coming back to the actual presentation here, I think I want to highlight one key point that is so important. And you see, like, if I click here back and forth, you see the overlap between the UAV manufacturer and the telecom vendor. And that overlap is, at least for us at Nokia, but also for other friends in the UAV manufacturer industry, a very, very important key going forward. Only if we are able to get over the, let's say, Wi-Fi based connectivity between the drone and the dock and transition into 4G or 5G connectivity, which is basically giving us unlimited geographical operation throughout a country, throughout a city, we will be able to successfully scale, and we will be able to guarantee reliable beyond visual line of sight operations for our customers. And if I say for our customers, I basically mean here the third bubble in the ecosystem, which is the service providers. The service providers here means the people that actually fly the drones for the end customers. That can be a police officer in a DFR operation that is flying for the colleagues out there in the field. That can also one of our partners, such as CityMesh or Swisscom, in a nationwide centralized operation center of drones. So the service providers are the customers where the UAV manufacturer and the telecommunications vendors deliver their solutions towards. And that is also something where we at Nokia, we are used to work for service providers ever since. It used to be in the past the telecommunication service providers. The telecommunication service providers obviously still are our customers, but nowadays we can count not only the telecommunication service providers, but also the drone service providers as our customer base. And that's something we should never keep. That's something we should never forget. We as drone-in-a-box manufacturers, we as the drone industry, ultimately our goal is to keep the service providers happy, or also, as one of our customers very often says, what always counts is that my pilots are happy. Only if the pilots that operate the solution are happy, you can guarantee a successful operation. And that's where we also believe that seamless connectivity through 4G or 5G will help to keep your pilots happy, will help to increase the reliability of your operations. Carrying on to the topic of scalability, and when we talk about drone-in-a-box projects with our current or future customers, we always think about drone-in-a-box projects as infrastructure projects, infrastructure service projects. In a sense, you can put Nokia Drone Networks projects or also drone-in-a-box projects on par with infrastructure projects such as mobile networks, such as gas stations, or, for example, a video surveillance system of a smart city. Those are all infrastructure projects. And an MNO network, for those who are not out of the telco industry, a MNO network is basically, the 4G network. So the masts and the radios, like those, big telecommunications masts you see out there. And, if we look at all those infrastructure projects, and that can also be other examples than the ones I've listed here, but all infrastructure projects have something in common. They need a deployment location. So you need a little bit of space. You need a little bit of power. You need some connectivity, no matter if it's cable, 4G, 5G, or whatever. And you need a customer who pays for the service, because an infrastructure project is nothing else than an investment into the infrastructure in order to create a service. And the only difference between all these projects or all these infrastructure projects are then the so-called application-specific hardware for an MNO network. So, for example, for an AT&T or a T-Mobile or a Verizon or a Vodafone or a Airtel or Bharti type of network is the radio and the mast. For a gas station, it's basically the gas station, or for an electric car, it's the charging pole. For a video surveillance system in a smart city, it would be the camera. And for a drone-in-a-box project, it would be the drone-in-a-box system. So let's always keep in mind, if we want to scale operations on a geographically large area, we need a little bit of space, we need a little bit of power, we need a little bit of connectivity, a customer, and ultimately somebody who pays for the service in the end. That's how we, compare existing infrastructure service projects with Nokia Drone Networks. And we think there is a lot in common between Nokia Drone Networks drone-in-a-box deployments with the thing that we have been doing ever since, which is deploying MNO networks in this particular case. Let me show you one great example from Belgium, together with our partner CityMesh. That is, for me right now, actually globally the most inspiring and the most insightful drone-in-a-box project. CityMesh is rolling out 70 Nokia Drone Network systems, so 70 boxes across the whole country of Belgium, which are sitting on top of fire stations, on top of police stations, on trailers throughout the whole country. And they are operated from up to 5 regional remote operation centers by pilots that work in shift. And those drones are connected only to the public 4G or 5G network, or to private 4G or 5G networks, or also in some particular cases to both the private and the public network. And that is, for me, a brilliant example of how scaling of commercial operations or scaling of drone-in-a-box operations can work. You work throughout a large geographical area. with the right partners that know what it means to use a screwdriver, so that can support with the local deployment, but also with partners who understand the telecommunications ecosystem. Because many of you might not know that CityMesh, as our partner, is a partner of the first hour for private wireless. They understand inside out how a 4G or a 5G network works. And they understand how to deploy together with our Nokia experts a drone-in-a-box solution in a public or private 4G, 5G network. So I can only encourage you, take a look at what CityMesh is doing in Belgium. It's once again, I have to repeat it because for me, this is such an inspiring project. It's a one of the, for me, most advanced global operation with regards to full beyond visual line of sight operations with a turnkey drone-in-a-box system. Very, very nice. And prime customers, I think I talked about it already. We talk about firefighters, we talk about police, we also talk about utilities overall. And obviously, as the blue light sector goes into a kind of saturation curve, the possibility to utilize the deployed systems for other use other than blue light, such as industrial perimeter security, that is obviously growing. That is also growing with the expanding regulatory framework and with more and more permits that we are able to obtain in Belgium together with CityMesh. Carrying on towards our actual, I would say, head theme of NestGen this year, how to deal with workloads, how to deal with AI workloads, how to shoulder this extremely growing demand of compute power that our drones and our boxes and our edge clouds and data centers needs nowadays. The strategic move that is happening right now is that all the compute nodes, all the computation is moving very intensively from a central cloud towards an on-prem edge cloud. That is the movement which we are seeing right now. But I believe with the NVIDIA chipsets and with the growing compute power and more evolution of the drones themselves as devices, we will see a massive transition of computational workload and of computation from on-prem edges towards device edges and last but not least, then sensory edges. And the sensory edges, that is something which are really then our drones. So the drones are together with the device edges. So you can picture today we talk about a cloud and we talk about an edge. So the cloud is the data center and will always be. The edge is our dock today. In the future, we will see a device edge. That is going to be the dock of the future. And the sensory edge is going to be the drone of the future. And with that evolution, you can also think that if you got together the right API framework, the right tools in order to transition compute workloads between all those four elements of your deployment, you will be able to decide with the snip of a finger whether it's good to do the computation or whether it's important to do the computation right away in the drone, or if it is a non-critical processing task that can be taken on later in the central cloud or also in the edge cloud. And here again, I want to highlight that when going through this transition with our Nokia Drone Networks development, where we're clearly focusing on a strategic move from leading silicon vendors, or to support the strategic move from leading silicon vendors to add AI and machine learning capability to the so-called micro edge devices. That will further on in the future stretch to something like Gen AI, but for the time being, I think our all focus for scalable operations, but also for the enablement of modular AI compute in our drones is that we establish this base layer that I'm showing here, and that we are all ready to migrate to the future with the architecture, the software and the hardware architecture that is running in our drones. With that, I'm coming basically to the last slide. I want to be I want to thank the NestGen team for the brilliant organization, but I also want to say to all the drone folks out there, the whole drone industry out there, we are in a phase of the industry where it is super critical to deliver collaborative advantage. Only like our mission is really to bring together customer and partner ecosystems and to build together with Nokia Drone Networks and all the ecosystem digital services and applications of the future that make all our lives better. And if you want to talk about how to use Nokia Drone Networks in your environment, or if you also have a software solution that it might be worth to think about doing an integration together, we are more than happy to work with you. We are more than happy to bring the ecosystem together and rather work in this growing industry together with you instead of all, siloed or potentially even versus each other. That is not our approach. So we are happy to be part of that industry. We are happy to help maturizing the industry as Nokia. And with that, I think, Aniket, back to you. And thank you very much for all the audience to take time for this session.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing your insights on how Nokia drones and docking stations are enabling scalability in the drone operations across multiple use cases. Actually, the insights that you shared regarding the Citimesh case study were truly valuable and inspiring, because this actually showcased how other industries can adopt drones and docks to enhance their operations. And with AI, the possibilities are even more exciting. And without further ado, what I would like to do is we have a few questions that I can see in the Q&A section, so we can take up some of these questions. So the first question is, will these micro edge device be on board the drone? I think this is more related to the AI micro edge device that you talked about in the presentation.
I think I can. So will these micro edge device be on board the drone? The answer is yes. Actually, if you look at the drone itself, the drone will be the micro edge. If you read papers or if you are into this edge compute ecosystem, some users or customers out there also call it the far edge, which is like the last point in the data, in like the origination point of the data. That's where, the furthermost point where you have compute power. And we look at the drone to be in the future the micro edge or the far edge. So the PC, the computational power inside the drone, is the micro edge or the far edge.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering that question, Thomas. We can take up another question. This question's from Yeshis. Can the docking station be attached on a moving platform where the drone can land and take off while in motion?
Absolutely. Yes. Great question. We actually have a couple of deployments on trailers, but there have also been assessments for deployment on boats or ships. We rely on active sensing technology between the dock and the drone, and with the seamless real-time connectivity of 5G, we do have the possibility to do this even when in motion. There is obviously always a limit, like if the weather conditions and the wind conditions and the movement would be too fast, then we at some point hit physical limits of the sensory frameworks and all the controllers. But ultimately, our ambition is to support moving platforms and landing and takeoff while in motion as much as possible.
Perfect. Understood. Also, this is one last question that I can see, and do Nokia drones come equipped with an onboard 5G SIM slot? If so, what is the maximum operational range supported by this connectivity?
Yeah, great question. The drone itself, and that's maybe one of the USPs or one of the keys that we focused on since day one. We have the full connectivity stack, so the full 4G, 5G connectivity stack integrated into the drone. So it is not an additional hook-on device or an auxiliary. The drone comes fully equipped with the 4G, 5G connectivity. And it does have SIM slots. It actually has multiple SIM slots because we are able to support up to four networks at the same time, so that there is also a redundancy or the possibility to switch between networks. And with regards to the second part of the question, what is the maximum operational range supported by this connectivity? There is no limit with 4G, 5G connectivity. 4G, 5G is built up across your country, across your city, like a spider net, literally. And this spider net can cover very, very large areas, which means you don't have a limitation of the connectivity. The only limitation of your operational range becomes the battery. So the battery will be your single bottleneck. What is the furthermost place you can fly to? But that can also be mitigated, for example, with multi-dock deployments where you go from dock to dock, which is also a super, super critical feature we support.
Okay. So that was really insightful, Thomas, because I really didn't know that Nokia drones also have like the docking station hopping operations, and that's really great. So we have more questions coming in the chat, and there's one question from Mr. Nilesh. What is the current scale of operation of docking station, and what's the most critical things are there to solve for rapid scale? This question is more regarding how we can scale the operations further from, because a lot of organizations, like even while working in the EMEA region, I understand that having one docking station deployments is good, but scaling those deployments is a big task. So Thomas, I would like you to share some light on that.
Yeah. So I think if you scale, no matter what you scale, if it's a company or if it's drone in a box or dock operations, you first of all need money, and or a chance to invest, because ultimately you're investing into infrastructure. So and in order to find the right investment, you need flexible business models such as direct capital investment, or also investors that support the infrastructure development, or last but not least, maybe even leasing options that give you the chance to, like pay off the hardware over time, so that you reduce the initial investment as much as possible. That's, I think, the most critical aspect from a enabling standpoint. But like after you have enabled, like let's assume you have all the money you need in order to scale your operations, you need another very important aspect, and that is the doing. And the doing comes along with the team and the people that are actually involved in the installation and in the build-up of that infrastructure. And I think after the availability of the necessary funds, the team behind making that scale happen, the skills, the ability to talk both the telecommunications language as well as the drone language, that is so much more important, and like actually the most critical success factor or factor to run into the ability to scale rapidly. Yeah. So number one, the funds available, and number two, the team that actually makes the scaling happening. You might want to ask the question also in the direction of Nokia as such. What did Nokia need in order to scale operations or also manufacturing and whatnot? But there I simply refer to our industrial setup and the fact that we are an established manufacturer of telecommunications equipment since many years, and we are leveraging existing manufacturing capacities in our own factory in order to bring out those systems for rapid scale.
Thank you, Thomas, for taking up that question. And now we'll take up our last question. Is this technology augment satellite tech like Starlink, or is redundant capability?
It's a bit hard to understand the question exactly, but I can tell that we are not leveraging today satellite connectivity. Satellite connectivity in particular, when we talk about telecommunication satellites, we talk about non-terrestrial networks. is something that is still growing and to a certain extent also subject to chipset availability. So we are not leveraging Starlink or satellite connectivity today, but we are with the redundant 4G 5G stack, we are able to still secure redundancy with regards to the 4G 5G connectivity, which is for the control and command as well as for the payload data.
Understood. Perfect. So I guess we have taken up all the questions. And lastly, I would like to thank Thomas for being a part of NestGen and helping us understand more about the Nokia drone in the box operations and sharing insights on the CTMS case study. And thank you everyone for attending. So any last few words from you, Thomas, before we close the session?
This was really inspiring. This was a great conversation, Aniket. I'm looking forward to the remaining couple of sessions of NestGen, and great event. Thank you very much for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.